Green Lantern, issue 4, legacy number 540. The internet can fight me until DC tells me otherwise. Jeremy Adams writing and Zermanico on the art. So, this left off on a pretty interesting cliffhanger last time with Sinestro showing up to talk to Hal. And I thought this was a pretty enjoyable issue. It did a couple of interesting things for me. Primarily, it gave us a Hal and Barry team up, where Barry pops in to help out with a bunch of stuff. It also sets up some big key plot details, which is that Sinestro is being quite vicious here. He set up explosives around the city to try and get what he wants. He wants the Green Lantern ring so he can go home, but what he doesn't know before he gets it, because Hal does just hand it over to him, is that it's not a regular Green Lantern ring. It doesn't just work from a power battery the way he's expecting it to. So we set up this plot that is that there is some group out there who are supplying people with high-powered and high-tech alien weaponry, and that is quite dangerous. So I think this might be the best issue of this so far. I think when I got to the end and there was this sort of sense of menace because those jets that Sinestro was tampering with are finally launching, it had kind of an eerie, like, oh, like they've checked them out to see if they're okay, but like, what if they've missed something? What if it's something they can't detect? It felt... Yeah,
they're definitely not okay, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be my guess, but I got a good feeling of like, oh no, like, you know, suspense, I guess, is maybe the word to say, but...
I think the fact that the last box says, oh, it could be apocalyptic, and it's, you know, as those planes are launching. That definitely does not feel pleasant.
Yeah, and we've done a lot of versions of the Hal and Sinestro relationship. I think this one being one of the most just clearly hostile between them, in that it's like, no, I'm going to do acts of terrorism if you don't give me what I want, Jordan. And then he does it anyway, just so Jordan can't follow him, and that's why he calls in Barry to help, because shit, I need to deal with this quickly, and I'm not that quick. Yeah. So where's old Barry boy? So he makes a construct that Barry then uses to go around, and like basically the signals or the frequencies bouncing off of this construct give them an idea of where all the explosives are. And we get a couple of nice scenes of you know, I think what's so good about having Hal and Barry team up is you get a lot of nice contrast between the green and the red. They're very different colors, so they go well together.
I would not be surprised if genuinely that's one of the reasons that they started teaming up these characters in the first place. Very
probably. Maybe even for a Christmas special, because green and red are very Christmassy colors.
Oh, they are, yeah.
So, yeah, I thought all that stuff was fun. I also enjoyed the creativeness of Hal's constructs here. Making a big shark to bite one of the explosives, I thought was just a fun little bit of... I felt like Adams was flexing his like Green Lantern creativity. And then the second time he uses big hands to like basically smash them. Yeah, between his... So I thought all that was really good stuff. It felt like he's really kind of hitting the groove of like how to write Hal. And he goes a bit Silver Age cheesy when they sort of like say hello to each other afterwards, but they both say each other's names so they can do the font, which, you know, it made me smile. It's very unnatural dialogue, but at the same time I get why they're doing it. They want the moment. So
yeah, it's probably one of for me the weakest moments of the issue, and
that's fair.
It's because it's a full, like they waste a full page on it.
Yeah. I get it. I did enjoy them chatting afterwards, though, where they're talking about how, oh, Wally's just had his third kid, which, you know, syncs up with Flash, which, you know, Adams actually wrote that plot. Yeah, so it makes sense he can reference that. But I also enjoyed Barry catching up with Carol a little bit. You know, they run into each other, and it's kind of awkward because he doesn't realize that her and Hal aren't a thing, and he invites them to dinner.
She's engaged. He's like, so am I. I mean, congratulations.
Yeah,
I remember chuckle.
And just, you know, Barry being like, Hal, you're such an idiot. Why have you ruined this relationship?
Again.
Yeah. And, you know, Hal does have some good kind of answers. Like, I always get called away for these big things in space, and I'm missing for so long. And, you know, I think Barry is in a good place to sort of talk about that, because he's like, well, I'm called off to dangerous things all the time too. Maybe not as far away, but, you know, and I'm much quicker at getting home, I suppose. But, like, you know, you can work at it. It does work. And the fact that Wally and Linda have got a good relationship, that works. Like, these relationships do work. So clearly there's something else here that's not quite working. But, yeah. I think I also appreciated that there was, like, good consequences to that scene from last issue where Sinestro was poking around these jets. Between them investigating them, then the ending sort of being like, oh shit, like what's going on here with those jets? It felt like it felt like a sort of not a nothing scene. It was exciting seeing them catch him on the security camera, but it was kind of like, okay, but what is this? What is this actually going to result in? And I think this issue did a good job of, oh no, we don't know what it's going to result in yet, but we're kind of worried about it now. It feels like it could be a big deal. So I like that.
Yeah, no, I'm into it. That 2-month break really kind of hurt this book a little bit for me.
That's fair. Yeah,
because I was really into the first 2 issues, and then it felt like ages for more. Like, I know technically he was still writing it, but it was essentially a 2-month break.
And this is no one's fault, but just DC as a company, as an editorial,
yeah, it's just editorial department. But it definitely hurt the momentum of the book a little bit, and not my enjoyment of it, but just more my expectations. Like I kind of forgot how much I do like this book, and how solid a start it had. I
think that's why issue 4 here is really singing, is because I think issue 3 was that transition issue of just getting back into it and realizing, this can be good again, and then this one gets to just pay off all the things that it was doing. It's almost like he, on some level, he probably knew when issue 1 was getting written that he was going to have to take this break, so he intentionally didn't do any big things you'd have to remember too well between 2 and 3. And I think 3
it was just a tease that Sinestro was out there, really.
Yeah, otherwise it was just focusing on Hal being back with the ring again and why that's happened. And I think issue 3 more intentionally set up a lot of things that 4 is immediately like developing and paying off, and I think that's quite good. And there's some more action here as well, because what's his name? Major Disaster is causing chaos with tornadoes and meteors, and again we get some more fun constructs. We get Hal using a giant baseball bat to hit snooker. It's a pool cue. Sorry.
Yeah.
To hit the meteors back into space. I thought that was again a really fun, inventive little panel. Whilst Barry's doing his run around the tornado shtick that he always does.
The usual, yeah.
Yeah, it's good fun. But his powers are stronger than normal, though. Major Disaster, and this ties into the whole someone's giving these bad guys alien tech, and that's kind of a problem. So. We're going into that, and then it just kind of gets to as Hal's finishing his narration and wondering what Sinestro's up to and how bad this could get. That we see the panels of the jets taking off,
which I assume they weren't supposed to take off, right?
It looks like they're taking off from the. It says automatic actually on one of the panels, but it does look like they're taking off just from the warehouse, basically the hangar.
Yeah. So I assume this is what Sinestro did do, is these are going somewhere now. I'm assuming they're not armed, because that's how you start a war.
Yeah, that is how you start a war. Maybe they're just jets. They can't fly in space, so it must be somewhere on Earth that they're going. Well, unless he's given them something to let them fly in space. It's not like they need life support because there's no one on them.
Yeah, that's sure it's all made. Or is this just another part of Sinestro's just, play like, hey, the bombs, you might catch those, but try catching, 3 supersonic jets.
Yeah, maybe this is to, it says next time worldwide fear, so maybe this is about just, causing fear in the entire planet, these terrorist attacks, which, we had a whole run at the end of Johnsy's time of like Sinestro possibly being redeemed, and can we sympathize with him, and can he be kind of this anti-hero type character, and while I did like that stuff, and I do like that approach to Sinestro, I do think there's something really kind of menacing and fun about him. He's just a straight up terrorist. Like, he'll just do stuff to Earth on a whim.
I think what I appreciate here is it doesn't feel like it's just, it's not mustache twirling villain Sinestro where it's just evil for the sake of it. He clearly has an agenda. He wants to get off Earth. There's a purpose to what he's doing here.
Yeah, they talk about Earth, they mentioned this in the first issue, of course, but Earth, or 2814 as a whole, is quarantined from the rest of the League of United Planets, and there's no Green Lanterns in here except the ones who are ex-Green Lanterns, like Hal and John. So, apparently traveling out of the sector is really tough, and that's why Sinestro needs help doing it. Obviously, he doesn't have a ring, clearly. So... but it's interesting though that because he doesn't have a ring, he is turning to these really nasty militia style tactics. He's doing all this stuff that he learned long before he ever had a yellow ring.
It feels a little bit desperate on his part, right?
Yeah.
which I think is interesting. Desperate Sinestro is scary.
Oh, for sure, yeah. So, no, I mean, I'm enjoying this quite a bit. It's a solid start to the run. I think it's build. It feels like it's building again. Much, and this is something that I've been saying about a few of the runs that I've really been liking recently, and something that was missing for a long time. Certainly in New 52, and not as much in Rebirth, but I think this is getting better as well. For some of them, is that they feel like runs as opposed to just a series of arcs that are all distinct from each other. Like Johnson's Warworld saga, and even what it's went into afterwards with having the kids and like the after effects of the Warworld saga, it feels like he's writing a run where he's got an end goal in mind for the entire thing, as opposed to here's one arc with a story that's done, on to the next arc, here's its own story.
Yeah, I actually saw a really good thread on Twitter of someone talking about almost exactly that with the Warworld stuff, how each arc post Warworld has felt like a really good jumping on point if you wanted to, but also it's really naturally furthering the story. Yes, they're individual arcs to some extent that you can jump onto them and follow what's going on, but all of them are all part of this larger story that's going on, and that has definitely been missing for a while.
Yeah,
with a lot of
Adam's Flash was lower key, but it definitely had that quality to it.
Venditti's Hawkman.
Yeah, Ramvi's Detective has all been kind of like one big story that's been split into smaller fragments.
I mean, that's even just named, acts 1, 2, and 3 respectively, and then sub arcs within those acts.
So it's very nice, and it's definitely, I think, my preferred way of writing a comic book run. Obviously, I see value in the other way as well, and I do enjoy a lot of those runs, but I definitely prefer this a little bit more. It feels more like a TV show, with like a serialized TV show with a larger story.
We've got space for both, obviously. I think the other approach works really well when we have like a series of minis.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like something like looking at the Doom Patrol book that's going on right now. That's one. Each issue is its own thing as well, but it's like that's one story. But it also feels like you could really easily tack another mini on afterwards and do another story with that team, and it would work really well.
Yeah. So, no, very good. There is a backup, though, before we get to rating anything, about Sinestro's Son. And this is by Peter J. Tomasi and David LaFiente. So, this is basically just a story about Sinestro's son, who's determined to prove that he is also worthy of being a Sinestro. And he's effectively built himself what the other alien dude refers to as a yellow ring. Like, he's trying to be a yellow lantern, but what it actually is basically just yellow brass knuckles that also may have like an electric shock thing attached to them.
Yeah.
So it's basically just this fire and this character who even draws on a little mustache like Sinestro at one point, and is beating up criminals because Sinestro was all about law and order and stuff, but it's basically he's living with this alien who makes all the kids sort of steal for him for to make a profit so that they can eat and stuff, and he's this awful, like, I don't know, foster father doesn't sound right. That doesn't feel like quite the right description, but yeah, but he's very upset at the end though because all the money that he was stealing from these other crooks got ruined when they shot at the case that the money was being carried in, so it's all ripped in half and he's very upset about it. But yeah, so I don't know, how'd you feel about the backup?
It's fine. I think it's probably better than the previous backups. Not necessarily in quality, but that this feels like a more of a digestible chunk.
Mm-hmm.
I think it helps us doing a significantly simpler story than the other backups were before. I don't think there's not much going on here though. It's just it's really just a kind of a little bit of fun essentially.
Yeah, I guess I
simple.
I can appreciate in some small way that the story of Sinestro's son kind of mirrors his own story in the main book right now, in that he's kind of stuck somewhere he doesn't want to be and is trying to get out, but the stakes are much smaller because he's just trying to escape someone who controls his life, as opposed to Sinestro, who's trying to escape a sector of space. So I do appreciate that. It was an easy enough read. I can't say I was that into it. It was fine as a backup, but I wasn't like super into it or anything.
Yeah, it's fine, but I think it seems better compared to the previous backups, which again weren't bad, but just more they did not have the pages they needed to tell the much more elaborate story they were trying to.
Did you start War Journal yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I know that follows on from those.
But did you read the last of the backups? I guess you might have done, because
Yeah, it was in issue 3. So
Well,
I read the last of that backup.
Yeah, I think that third one did at least give, like, I thought that was the best of those 3 parts, just because it gave context to, like, oh, I get what this is doing now and where it's going now.
I agree. I also think all 3 of them should not have been a backup, and it should have been 1-0 issue.
Sure,
for
no,
Warzone.
I get it. I do. But at the very least, though, I thought, okay, I finally understand what this is doing now, as opposed to, whatever.
Yeah, War Journal is on the list, obviously. I'm going to read that.
Oh, issue 1 was very good. Issue 1. And it would have worked without reading those backups, but that did give you a bit more insight going into it, what some of the context was.
Like I said, I just think... I bet if you read all 3 of those backups together as one thing, they read pretty well. Like as a 0 issue.
Yeah, very possibly.
I think they probably should have just published it that way.
All right, what are you rating Green Lantern issue 4?
I think I'll give it an 8, mostly for the main story.
Yeah, unless the backup's like so bad that I want to deduct points, or it's so good that it somehow elevates the whole thing, I kind of just ignore it and rate the main story. So yeah, I'm happy to give it I am going to 8.5, because I do think there was just a little bit of intriguing menace at the end as those jets were taking off. I'm like, okay, you actually made me feel something here by the end, and be excited for where the story's going. So, but it had its Silver Age fun moments as well, with Hal coming up with the fun constructs and chatting with Barry and all the rest of it. So, yeah, good.